Hi everyone, this is Laura Lowell, and thank you for joining us for another 42 Rules webcast. Today we're very pleased to have David Coleman joining us. David is the Managing Director of Collaborative Strategies, Inc., and he is going to talk about his 10 predictions for collaboration in 2013. David, as I mentioned, is the Director of Collaborative Strategies. He is an industry analyst, and along with doing some research and additional advisory services, he's the author of 4 books on collaboration. The best known is Collaboration 2.0, and his most recent book, 42 Rules on Successful Collaboration, is now in its 2nd edition. David works with collaborative startups, and he helps to get them more market attention, to drive adoption, and to really increase revenues, which everybody loves, right? So he works with a variety of end-user organizations to help them save a lot of money on collaboration without spending a lot of money. So one of his real things is how you can be more efficient without spending a ton of money. His blog is at collaborate.com, and he's done a lot of writing for CMS Wire, Cutter IT Journal, the GigaOM Pro, and eLearning Magazine. And I would like to welcome you, David, to our webcast, and we're very excited about what you have to say today.
Thank you, Laura. That was a wonderful introduction. I want to start off by looking at what is collaboration before I go into 10 predictions on collaboration. So a lot of people use different words. They use communication, conversation, coordination, etc., when they really mean collaboration. And so what I've done, and what you can see on the slide, is that I've shown that collaboration really requires a high level of commitment and a high degree of alignment on a specific purpose or goal. So example, at the low end, a conversation, I could say, hi Laura, you could say hi back, and that would be a conversation. There was no level of commitment and there was no particular purpose or goal. As we move up the ladder, you know, each of those gets higher, but collaboration really means 2 or more people working together for a specific purpose or goal. So that's actually my definition. I really look at collaboration holistically. Excuse me, I look at people, process, and technology. Now, everybody seems to focus on the technology. Why? Because it's probably the most tangible. However, what we've found is that in working with people and processes, that about 80% of the problems occur in those areas. We also look at space in terms of how collaboration can help your physical space, or how creating your physical space can help support collaboration. So
David, before you go on, I want to just invite our viewers, if you would like to collaborate with us throughout the webcast, feel free to ask a question. In the webcast panel, there is a questions tab, and feel free to send over a question, and I will be monitoring those and asking David to answer them throughout today's session.
Okay. So now to move on to get into the actual 10 predictions for 2013. Now, as an analyst, I've done these predictions a number of years in a row, I think 2010, 11, and 12. So this is the 4th year doing it. And I've had some degree of success. I will say last year I got about 9 out of 10. And I'll talk about the one I didn't get a little bit later in one of the predictions for this year. So the predictions range all over the place, from behavior to technology to trends in the industry, and hopefully you'll find them as interesting as I do. So the first one is about HR. Now, I used to have a joke about HR, saying that the role of HR was to lose resumes. And you know, in the past that was true, but HR companies, HR departments today are becoming more and more collaborative. In the past, they're really very much transactional. Get the person in, get them signed up, you know, get them whatever benefits, and then post things they need to know about legal stuff and stock options and things like that. today, all that's being turned on its head. Now people are using crowdsourcing to find the right talent, or they're even having people do a job, and based on how someone does the job, they'll offer them an employee slot or not, or they may decide to keep them as an independent worker. There's a lot of that going on today also. The other thing I wanted to talk about was something called WAS, which is Worker as a Service. So you're familiar with SaaS, Software as a Service. This is WAS, and this comes from a company called Collab. And basically it's the idea of a person as a service. So you, the employee, have some value, and there's an internal market where you can offer your value. So for example, let's say you're an employee and you're a really great project manager. You can say, okay, I do project management at $80 an hour. Or you're a really good proofreader. I do proofreading at $30 an hour. And so you're part of a marketplace, and someone who needs a really great project manager can bid for your time, and then you can accept or not accept. The only issue I see with this, well, there are a lot of issues, but one big issue is sometimes there's parts of work that no one wants to do. And so this idea of worker as a service really includes outsourcing and things like that. So the work no one wants to do can be outsourced to other companies. Here are a few companies today that are helping crowdsource talent. And the reason I say this is I keep getting things in the mail saying, here's a job. And if you know someone that would fit this job, refer them to us, and if they get hired, we'll give you $10,000. So essentially, they're making me the HR person and helping and asking me to find the talent as part of the crowd. There are also crowds of talent that you can pull from. Each of these DICE, Elance, and Odesk has millions of users that are profiled down to their skill and their skill level, and you can get reviews on how good their skill is from other people they've done work for, etc. So if you need someone quickly, this is another good way to go. However, we're seeing more and more tools that help with collaboration show up in the HR space. And what I mean by that is, let's say there's a top programmer here in Silicon Valley, and a lot of people are after this guy. So the speed at which you move will make a difference between whether you get that top talent or not. So maybe you have someone who meets him at a startup meeting or at a networking event, and you recognize him as top talent. So then what you do is use a collaborative tool like a video conferencing tool like, let's say, Blue Jeans or something like that. And after you talk to him, you get on with whoever else is involved, maybe the hiring manager, etc., and explain who this is and why you think he's top talent, why they should look at him. So you also have a tool that will automatically help schedule a time to meet with them, and you may have another tool that would set up either other interviews with people on the team or set up a particular test or task that they have to do or take. But overall, because of the collaborative tools, you can move things along quickly so that in a matter of days you can give this top talent an offer and get him as top talent. If you wait the 2 to 3 weeks that it normally takes to go through the standard HR process, he'll be long hired by someone else. So I see that starting to happen today. Prediction 2 looks at 3D printing. And 3D printing is something that will really change supply chain. Now, I have to say that last year, the one prediction I didn't get right was about collaboration and supply chain. And what I said was that the addition of collaboration to supply chain silos will speed up supply chains. Well, there's lots of collaboration, but it's not easily or quickly being added to those silos. So although I'm pretty sure this will happen, it won't happen in the time frame I had predicted. It'll probably take another 5 years. But in any case, 3D printing is moving along really quickly, and it can change the supply chain. So for example, let's say I want to get a desk chair. Well, I could go into Staples and go look for or buy some desk chair, or I could look online and construct or even personalize a desk chair I want, and then go into Staples and they'll have printed it out for me on one of these 3D printers. And so the whole supply chain changes. You don't have to keep stuff in stock. You don't have to ship stuff. It will make a huge difference in the supply chain, and I believe it will help drive collaboration into the supply chain because not only because of the huge differences, but because collaboration is critical for you to make sure you get the right thing when you do 3D printing. So 3D printers are getting pretty cheap. You can buy them for your home. They're down as low as $600 or $800. You can print tiny things. So this is on a nano scale. So you can see the edge of the wire in the upper right corner. So just so you can see how small this car is. And they're also printing houses. That requires a very big printer, and they print panels and then put them together and assemble the house very quickly. Now the panels already have the plumbing and the electrical wiring and whatever else they need in them when they're printed. They can even be printed a specific color. So that's starting to happen, and this is a very interesting presentation. We're starting to see other things. Where I'm buying a pair of sneakers on Kickstarter that is being printed by 3D. Nike now offers a 3D printed shoe, and pretty soon we'll start seeing 3D printers in places like Walmart or Walgreens or Safeway. Anywhere there are a large number of people and want specific products, you can go to some place and get that. Eventually, a lot of this will end up in our home, but it'll take time for the technology to become robust and the cost of the machines to drop even more. Okay, ubiquitous video. So video is becoming more and more important. I don't have numbers from YouTube, but YouTube's growth year over year for the last few years has been phenomenal. More and more are we seeing things in YouTube, and more people are looking at streaming video. But what I'm talking about is ubiquitous video, so that if I am on, I don't know, WebEx or GoToMeeting, and I want to meet with 5 people, it doesn't matter where they are. They could be in a room with a Polycom system. They could be on their cell phone. Maybe it's an Android or an iPhone. They could be on a webcam. So it doesn't matter what endpoint they're on. That seamlessly is taken care of in the background. So, we really see the idea that you can connect to any or as many endpoints as you want. A lot of this and the fact that video vendors know that what goes on is complex. There's a lot of translating from codecs and different standards, and there's some new standards coming into the market. So there are a lot of applications today around video conferencing. I named a few above: VidTel, Video, Magor, and BlueJeans Networks, along with, Citrix Online and WebEx and Polycom and LifeSize and all the others. And we see that what you want to be able to do is go into video with one click. So if you're in a discussion with someone and you say, gee, we ought to include Bernie, and you can send a note to Bernie, and with one click, Bernie can be right in that conversation. So he can have the same context you have as the person you're in the discussion with. That's really the critical thing in collaboration, is sharing context. And video conferencing really helps do that. We see video all over today. And here's some examples. So in the background, a lot of these vendors are starting to put together agreements. So Polycom is really one of the major video players, and they're now offering this cloud access suite, which allows other vendors, even competitors, to interoperate with them. The other ones I told you about, Magor, Video, Vidtel, etc., can talk to any endpoint. There are lots of other companies in the back end that are working together to bring high-end or HD video. And a lot of these companies are having really good years. Video claims they grew by 68% last year. Blue Jeans Networks had over 200% growth. And Magor also doubled in growth.
David, before you move on, I have a question
Sure.
from online.
Sure.
The question is, with video conferencing, mobile, and cloud coming together so quickly for the consumer, how do you think that's going to affect the enterprise?
Okay, good question. So a lot of times today, the consumer is ahead of the enterprise. One of the reasons is in an enterprise, you have people who are concerned with security and policies and legal stuff. And so lots of times you have to go, when you go log in, you have to log in through a VPN into an enterprise, which slows things down, although it makes it more secure. One of the things that's happening is people are starting to not deal with the collaborative infrastructure that's in the enterprise today, but are using other things, you know, from their cell phone or their iPad that are much quicker, easier, and less cost. So people are doing a lot more collaboration without the presence of IT being involved, and they're doing lower cost, you know, pay by subscription, pay by the month tools, which I'll talk about a bit later. This has moved into the enterprise more slowly because management doesn't understand it as well as consumers do, although I bet management's kids understand it very well, and B, because they're always worried about security and other things. So hopefully that will answer the question, but we're going to talk about that more a little further in this time. And Laura, if you can tell me when I'm getting, you know, within 5 minutes, that would be helpful also. So prediction 4, we're looking at collaboration on big data. So everybody's heard about big data. It's out there. There's all sorts of data about you. Facebook, Netflix, LinkedIn, you know, Safeway, they all know more about you than you probably know about yourself. According to IBM, we had 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. That fills more than 531 million DVDs, which is probably about maybe the size of part of the Library of Congress. But 90% of the world's digital information that is available today was created in the last 2 years. So if you think about this from the dawn of time and stone tablets all the way up through the last 2 years, 90% of all information has been created in the last 2 years. Excuse me. So more and more we're seeing these huge data sets. And of course there are a lot of startups that are going to help you deal with this big data. More often than not, they help you look at it graphically or ways to find trends and patterns, which are things that people are really very good at, but computers are not always very good at. And my prediction is we'll start to see more and more of these tools in 2013 that will not only help with collaboration, but will help with collaboration around big data sets. So here are some examples of where this is happening. Oil and gas firms are sharing terabytes of data, and they're getting insights on operations both upstream and downstream. Media companies are collaborating on post-production, real-time, and sharing with stories. I actually talked with someone from USA Networks the other night at a meeting, and our talk was about a new TV show that also had an interactive gaming part. It was called, begins with a D. It's called Defiance. And there's a regular weekly TV show that the setting is around the future in St. Louis, and there's an online Defiance game where the setting is in San Francisco, and the two interact. So you can interact with the TV show through the game and vice versa. And I haven't seen this done before, but it's starting to make things very, very, very interesting. So gaming companies can also, because there are large sets of data, they can now publish them much more quickly. They're able to collaborate on files in 30 seconds, which took them hours a long time ago. To make this a little personal, I went on LinkedIn the other day on the 22nd, and there's something called InMap in LinkedIn. And if you go to LinkedIn/InMap, it will show you a map of your network. So this is a map of my network. There's a massive amount of data here. And you know, I'm trying to figure out who all the people in the orange are in the upper left and the people who are in the lower right who are in purple, and who the guys at the bottom are in brown, and what the green is in the middle. So I have to try to figure that out, but I can start to see where my network is, where the distribution is, and where I have the most connections. This is somewhat similar to something called social network analysis. There's other ways to collaborate on LinkedIn. There's a new tool called Can We Network, which I've downloaded on my iPhone. And what it does is it looks at who you know on LinkedIn. And so the little Chinese guy here in Austin, it matches you with people based on you know, location, how far away they are from you, and overlap on certain keywords in terms of interest. And so it's saying that you know, if I talk with Alexia Myers, there's a 90% chance that that will be a good conversation. Now, I have to tell you, I've downloaded the tool and I've looked at some of the people it wants me to connect to, but I also have not actually gone out and talked to anyone with this tool yet. Maybe I'm just a little shy, you know, going up to Michael Davidson and saying, hey, this tool on my iPhone says you're nearby and we like to talk about the same stuff. You want to talk, or you want to have coffee, or whatever. So I guess I need to learn how to do that, because that's more of the way starting to meet people now. Prediction 5 is an interesting one, and it's looking at the changing workplace. I did a talk last year called The Secret Future of Work, 5 Technologies That Will Transform Your Workplace. And you're welcome to email me at davidc@collaborate.com if you want a copy of the slides. But the technologies that I covered are nanotechnology, 3D printing, which we covered already in Prediction 2, heads-up displays and augmented reality, brain-machine interface, and driverless cars. And I believe all those technologies, which are moving forward very quickly, will change not only the way we work, where we work, but how we work. The original white paper that talks about this is available on my website, and you can just go to this link, collaborate.com, Future of Collaborative Works, Future of Collaborative Networks, and you should be able to sign up and get the white paper downloaded. Prediction 6 is talking about new collaborative conversations, and this goes back to the question you asked me earlier, Laura, about, you know, how mobile and video and cloud are all moving into the enterprise. So what I've seen is over the last few months, and probably for the next 18 months, people are willing to have these new conversations. 2 years ago, I would go in and talk to them, and they say, oh, well, we're on SharePoint or we're on Lotus Connections, and, you know, that's it. And, you know, we spend millions of dollars a year on this, and that's what we're doing. Well, it turns out that a lot of those older collaborative infrastructure tools are not doing what they want, and people are working around them. So almost all the companies we go into, you know, and I was talking with Walmart yesterday, they use SharePoint. Their term for it was DeadPoint, which meant that you could put, you know, documents in or take them out. I actually call it the Roach Motel for information. You can put it in, but it doesn't go out.
So, David, we have a question regarding this
Sure.
from one of our online viewers. It says, you talk about technologies that are going to change the workforce, but a lot of these are really young. And so right now you're talking about the ones that are really old, relatively old, I suppose.
Right, and I will get to the young ones.
Right. The question is, when should they start worrying about the changes that these new tools are going to bring? Like some of your earlier predictions, I suppose, is what they're referring to. At what point should they start worrying about that?
Well, so let me go through this, and hopefully I will have answered that question. If not, please ask it again.
Okay, I will.
So the point I'm trying to make here is that, you know, their constituencies are getting fed up with SharePoint and Notes, and IT has either gone around completely, or IT has been told, you know, this isn't working for us, we really need some other things. So what are some other options? And this is a tool that I use called the TCEP to help start a conversation with a large enterprise about what they want to do about collaboration. And what this TCEP does is it gives me an idea of where they are around technology, culture, economics, and politics. And I can tell where the problems are from just looking at this and make suggestions on where we should start pilot projects with other collaborative tools. And to say that there are a lot of tools that are gunning for SharePoint is an understatement. All these different tools are taking market share away from SharePoint. I don't know if you're in Silicon Valley and you drive down 101, Box has a big sign, you know, saying rather than SharePoint, use us. And, you know, Teamwork says they get a third of their people moving over from SharePoint, and, you know, Maven Link and all these others. The one with the picture on the left is Jostle, which I'll tell you about later. It's also focused on the enterprise, but they take a much more people-oriented focus, and you can see they have like activity streams and stuff, and they're much more like today's tools than the older tools. So did I answer your question, Laura?
Yes, I think you did.
Okay. Prediction 7, everything's connected. Now, I've felt this way for a long time, and I mean this in both a philosophical sense and somewhat of a literal sense. In the philosophical sense, I believe that we are all connected to each other and also connected to everything else in the universe. I can't always see those connections, but that doesn't mean that they're there. And oftentimes those connections become apparent when, you know, just out of the blue, the right person calls me, or the right job shows up, or whatever. And it means that there's some connection there, whatever it is. So the point I'm going to try to make about this literally is we're starting to see cameras and sensors show up in everything. You know, they're nano sensors, or very small sensors that can be woven into your clothing. They can be built in as part of the roadway. They're in little tiny drones flying around. So there'll be lots of sensors around that will basically make you connected to everyone else through those particular sensors. They'll have some kind of sensor network, and either data will go one way or both ways. This is not only a bit overwhelming, but it really makes me wonder a lot about our privacy, how do we maintain our identity, and who else is really helping make sure that our privacy is in place and we have control of our own identity. There's a lot in the papers about this these days, and it's one of the things that enterprises worry about less than other companies, but still the same problem applies to any size company. You know, how do you keep your identity, reputation, product brand, etc.? I promised I'd talk a little bit more about Jostle, and Jostle is fairly new. They came out, I think, in November of last year, and they are really focused on people. So most of the other collaboration tools are focused on content. Here's a space, and you can put in content, documents, videos, whatever that you want to share, and only people who are invited to that space can share that. So Jostle is really focused on people, and it really follows, this is called their photo wall, and it really looks at it from the view of people. So if you want to look at Julie, you click on her photo and it'll bring up her profile, and you can then find links to documents that Julie's done that you think might be useful to you. Very different than what you do in SharePoint or Connections. Now, not only is networking happening throughout the universe, but it's happening between organizations. One of the reasons is because people are still, there's a big war for talent. There's only about 3% of baby boomers left in the workforce, so I'm one of 3%, and there are more and more millennials in the workspace, those born after 1980. And the way millennials work is very different from the way baby boomers work. So millennials are looking more for fun and social justice. So they may work as an employee for a while, they get some experience and expertise, and then they'll either go out on their own or start their own business, or because they're so connected through other networks like Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, they soon find others like themselves and they can form an entity or a small business, or they can go work for the business their friends are already in. And it's also a way to keep ahead of the competition, a way to keep ahead of the competition. So some of these small network groups may focus on something and be the best in the world. If you look at companies like 99 Designs, if you ever want to have a logo design, you can go to 99 Designs and they'll put your logo requirements out, and a bunch of designers will come up with different logos. And then they'll take the best and show them back to you, and you can decide what you want. So it kind of turns work around also. By crowdsourcing your logo, you get a lot of different options and don't have to pay for any until you decide on one. So let's look at the next slide, which really looks at how I see the future of work. So I see the future of work as a networked organization. In the middle, you see this core, and the core of most organizations in the future will be a couple hundred people. They'll probably it'll probably be still upper management, it'll be some finance people, it'll be maybe a few people running operations, and a lot of the other stuff will be outsourced to groups that focus on that. So they'll outsource IT, any internal IT they have, to an IT group. So there's huge IT service groups in the world like Infosys and HCL and lots of big companies that do that. But take into account also that many of their applications are SaaS applications, and so they don't really have to maintain them. They don't have to deal with the servers, they don't have to upgrade the software, etc. That's all done by the SaaS service. And so you could outsource your IT. Some people outsource sales. And by outsourcing, I don't mean like send it to India. What I mean is that these organizations around the ring are small groups of people that are maybe boutique organizations that are very good at one particular thing. So let's say this woman in the lower right is the HR woman, and she has particular expertise in finding HTML5 programmers. And so you really want to get the talent, but some of the only way you can get the talent is through her. Or let's say the guy just above him with the black hair is an IT guy, and you need some specific programmers or someone who has the ability to work with a legacy system. But those people have already retired from their jobs. They're willing to work part-time or as a consultant, and so they'll work through this group, the IT group, for the company, not as part of the company. It's a subtle difference, but an important one.
David, before you get to the 10th prediction, I have a couple of questions that are coming through.
Go ahead.
One is, where did the 3% statistic come from? It's not what the retirement financial advisors are seeing.
You know, I don't remember. I'll have to look that up. I know that I talked with Cisco, and as of 2 years ago, they only had 5% baby boomers in the company.
Oh,
so it's not surprised. And that was from, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was an HR manager that was talking to a group I was in.
Okay.
So what's the other question?
Let's see. Nope, we're good for now.
Okay. So,
but keep your questions coming if you have any.
Right. So prediction 9, we're looking at personalization and customization. Everybody these days wants to say, I'm different. Yeah, I'm somewhat like you, but I'm different. And not only am I different, but maybe the way I'm different connects me to you. So for example, if you look at most people's laptops today, they have stickers all over them. You know, if they have a sticker that says, you know, I love cocoa, and your laptop has a sticker that says I love cocoa, you know, you may understand that you're two people in one space that like cocoa. But basically what they're trying to do is not only identify themselves, but identify themselves as unique. So this is very different from the Industrial Revolution, where Henry Ford, you know, said you can have any color car as long as it's black, because that's all he made was black cars off an assembly line. Today, it's just the opposite of assembly line. Everybody wants, you know, something just for them. This is also where 3D printing and nanotechnology come in. But, you know, look at the popularity of tattoos. This is people saying, look at me, I'm different. And I'm an individual, etc. Some people are even, you know, hot about a particular brand. How many people have you seen where the brand is tattooed on their arm, like Harley Davidson? So here's an example of personalization and customization. This is called Nike ID, and I don't know if you can see my pointer moving around, but you can go over here and pick whatever color. So right now, you know, if the upper is black, and I can pick the other part to be like green, and I could pick the sole to be another color, and you know, I can customize the colors for this particular sneaker just for me. So I may have one-of-a-kind color combination. And there are lots of different things available to do this. Prediction 10 is really about reputation, and hopefully I'm on time. I'm really looking at collaborative reputation. So this takes into account that people are social and they interact with each other, and many times they're interacting on social networks. And these social networks create organizations, and as we saw earlier, the organizational structures are changing, and we're using new technologies to support them. Roles are changing, processes are changing, and often you end up with a reputation, even before you had a reputation. But reputation means something more today. It's your reputation is like, you can look at your profile on LinkedIn, or you can look in something like Jive, which I'll move on to. This is from BunchBall, but they use Jive. And you can look and see how other people rate or rank you. So you're rated an expert level. Here's all the badges you have. Mean 3 means your 3 most important badges. So these 2 badges are the most important to you. for following on Google, you have 100 points. You're considered an influencer, so you get 50 points for that. Here's your total number of points. And you're able to show your reputation not only from things you've done, but how others see you and rank you. So that's what I mean by collaborative reputation. I think we're probably pretty much at the end of our time.
David, I have one more question about the reputation.
Sure.
The question says, someone said reputation is everything. With so many people rating and ranking me, how do I manage or maintain a good reputation?
So that's a really good question, and one a lot of people are dealing with right now. You can have something like a reputation troll. In other words, someone in the organization who's a stick in the mud and gives everyone a 1 instead of a 10, bringing your score down. So there need to be ways in the community to deal with people like this. So if you run around giving everyone a score of 1, a community manager may say to you, is that really truly what you believe their value is on that particular thing? The other thing is, people can write really nasty comments on things that you've written, and some of those can be moderated. Or better yet, if you're an expert, you can respond to the comment civilly and give them the right answer or a better answer, and that would improve your reputation. So it's not only about what you do and what you know, but what other people perceive about you. It's a really good question, though, because a lot of people are struggling with this. They spent a long time building up a reputation, and, reputations like trust can fall apart instantly and can take forever to build back up. So, in final, if there are no more questions, just be prepared. Here's 2 disasters, the Hindenburg and the Consta Concordia. All of these things are changing very quickly, and they'll probably have unintended consequences that we don't know about yet. So it's good to really be prepared for that.
David, I want to thank you so much for sharing your predictions with us. I think they were really interesting. And if anybody wants to learn more about David or to read his latest book, which is out in its 2nd edition, the book is called 42 Rules for Successful Collaboration, please click on over to 42rules.com. You can get a copy of David's paperback book or his ebook. Either one is fine. And if you'd like to get a hold of David, we have some of his contact information here. This webcast is being recorded, and we will send out a link to the recording later. I want to thank you all for joining us today and wish you all a very, very great day. David, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks again, Laura.